There are 7 behaviors no one ever taught you. That is exactly why people continue to misjudge you. These habits create a presence that commands caution, even when you never raise your voice. Here's an uncomfortable truth. You were never born weak, and you were never incapable. You were simply conditioned to act in ways that make you predictable, agreeable, and easy for others to influence. Machiavelli understood a principle that many people still overlook. A person who inspires caution often enjoys greater security than one who depends on being admired, not because they intimidate everyone around them, but because they guard access to their thoughts and intentions. That was never meant as abstract philosophy. It was an observation about how people actually behave. Yet, most people reveal far more than they realize. They expose their emotions too quickly, offer honesty without restraint, and leave the door wide open to their inner world. Believe this: everyone around you has been quietly collecting information. They notice what angers you, what softens you, what makes you hesitate, and where your confidence disappears. If you want genuine influence, you must become someone whose intentions cannot be easily decoded and whose emotions cannot be effortlessly manipulated. But this is the reality few people want to admit. Whether they realize it or not, people are constantly observing you. They study your reactions, your silence, your errors, your confidence, and the moments when your guard slips. The less predictable you become, the harder you are to control. Every behavior you show teaches them exactly how to treat you. You think you're being honest, you think you're being real, but you are giving away the blueprint to your mind, and the wrong person only needs one weakness to break you. So in this video, you're going to learn 7 behaviors that make people secretly fear you without saying a word. Behaviors that shift the room. Behaviors that force respect. Behaviors that quietly remove the power others think they have over you. Pay attention. What you're about to hear will force you to confront the version of yourself you've been hiding from. This might be the most important warning you hear this year. If you think you already know all these behaviors, you don't. Stay until the end, because the last one is the behavior that determines whether people treat you like a leader or like a target. Behavior 1. You don't react emotionally even when provoked. There is a reason people fear you. And it's not because you're loud, aggressive, or violent. It's because you don't react. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable people get when you stay calm during chaos? When you don't raise your voice, even when someone tries to push your buttons, when you don't flinch, don't cry, don't explode. That silence terrifies them. Machiavelli, you don't defend yourself. You don't flinch when someone tries to provoke you. You stay calm, cold. And that terrifies people far more than anger ever will. Most people are slaves to their emotions. Someone tugs on their anger, they explode. Someone pulls on their insecurities, they crumble. Someone pushes a little, they break. But you control everything inside you, and that makes you dangerous. Let's start with the truth no one wants to admit. People don't provoke you to win, they provoke you to study you. When someone tries to irritate you, insult you, or embarrass you, they're not doing it for the moment. They're doing it to read your weaknesses. Do you get angry easily? Do you lose control? Do you expose your insecurity? Do you start defending yourself like a wounded animal? Because the moment you react emotionally, you reveal your pressure points. And the person who controls your emotions controls you. Machiavelli warned, whoever controls your emotions controls you. So he built his entire philosophy on one thing. Never let the enemy see you bleed. Never let them see you react. Now, picture this. Someone insults you in front of others. Most people would fire back instantly, raise their voice, get defensive, show they've been hit. You don't. You look at them with the same face you had before they said it. Imagine someone tries to provoke you. You don't flinch. Your breathing stays steady. Your posture never changes. You offer no emotional opening. That's it. Something subtle happens in that instant. The room no longer revolves around the words that were thrown at you. Instead, every eye is drawn to your composure. People begin to recognize a simple fact: they cannot dictate your emotional state. The insult fades into the background while your restraint becomes the center of attention. That is why silence should never be mistaken for weakness. Used deliberately, it becomes a powerful psychological advantage. When people cannot interpret your feelings, uncertainty begins to grow inside them. Questions replace confidence. Did that have no effect? Is there something I'm missing? Why isn't there a response? The more composed you remain, the more their own discomfort is reflected back at them. The Stoic philosopher Seneca argued that anger places a person under the control of emotion, while calm preserves true command over oneself. Real strength appears when your inner state cannot be manipulated by someone else's behavior. Keep this principle in mind. Many people rely on your emotional response because it gives them a sense of influence. The moment you refuse to provide that response, the balance changes. Control quietly shifts back into your hands. You become the observer, not the victim. You become the judge, not the defendant. They feel exposed, unbalanced, uncertain, and uncertainty is the root of fear. Because now it's clear that you don't play their emotional games. You don't lose your center. You don't give them access to your inner world. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can provoke you, you are a slave to them." You chose not to be a slave. Here's another truth. The person who stays calm controls the person who can't. Your calmness frustrates people with short tempers. It exposes people who pretend to be strong. Bunkin, it reveals who they really are. They start to crumble. They say too much. They reveal their insecurity. They lose control trying to make you lose yours. You turn them inside out simply by not reacting. That is power. Understand this. Emotional control is not about being passive. It's not about being a robot. And real self-control is not about staying silent forever. It is about deciding when your response has value and when it only feeds someone else's agenda. Feeling emotion is natural. Being ruled by it is a choice. The strongest people wait until their words can create an advantage instead of speaking the instant they feel challenged. They choose deliberate action over impulsive reaction. Their timing is intentional, which is why emotional discipline so often outperforms raw ability. Skill can disappear under pressure when emotions take over. Discipline remains steady because it is built on consistency rather than impulse. What does that kind of composure communicate? It tells others that your decisions cannot be dictated by intimidation or provocation. It signals confidence without needing to announce it. People become cautious around someone who cannot be emotionally steered, not because that person is hostile, but because their stability leaves very little to exploit. Take a moment to think about your own experience. Recall the last occasion when someone tried to provoke an emotional response from you. Before considering what they did, ask yourself a different question. Who truly controlled the direction of that interaction? Did you give it to them? Did you give them emotional access to your mind, or did you stay silent and watch them fall apart, trying to pull you down? Because here's the last truth I'll leave you with. He who angers you conquers you. He who cannot anger you fears you. When you master your reactions, you master the battlefield. Ben, you become the calm in the storm, and nothing is more terrifying than a man who stays calm when everyone else is losing control. If this hit you deeply, drop this in the comments. I control my emotions. Behavior 2. You speak less than necessary. There's a reason the most powerful people in history barely spoke. Because the moment you open your mouth too much, you give the world the blueprint to destroy you. Because the more you speak, the more you reveal. And the more you reveal, the easier you are to predict, manipulate, weaken, and destroy. Let me ask you something. Have you ever told someone the truth and they twisted it? Have you ever opened up and they used your own words to poison your reputation? Have you ever talked too much and later wished you said nothing? That's the price of speaking more than necessary. Silence protects, talking exposes. Machiavelli hinted at this when he wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally, and fools always speak first." Now listen carefully. There is a certain type of silence that scares people, a silence that forces them to wonder, what is he thinking? Why isn't he reacting? What does he know that I don't? Your silence becomes their paranoia. Tekin, let me paint a scenario you know too well. You're in a room, people are talking, arguing, explaining themselves, trying desperately to prove their point. You sit there saying nothing, not because you're confused, not because you're lost, but because you don't give your power away that easily. The loudest one in the room always feels strong, but the quiet one always is strong. Silence is often mistaken for hesitation, but in reality, it can be one of the strongest forms of strategy. The less you reveal, the more other people begin supplying their own explanations. Their assumptions, worries, expectations, and biases fill the empty space. While they are busy interpreting you, they unintentionally expose themselves. The Stoics often emphasized the value of understanding others, but wisdom also requires discernment. Not every person has earned unrestricted access to your thoughts. Treat your words as something valuable rather than something to distribute freely. Speak with intention, not out of habit. The more you explain every decision, defend every choice, or reveal every thought, the easier it becomes for others to predict your behavior. Each unnecessary explanation offers another glimpse into your thinking, another opportunity for someone to question your confidence, and another opening for your message to lose its impact. People naturally place greater weight on someone who is comfortable leaving certain things unsaid. Constant self-justification weakens authority because it signals a need for approval. Endless conversation often replaces intrigue with familiarity. Composure, on the other hand, creates curiosity. Those who master restraint tend to command attention long after they have finished speaking, while those who speak without purpose gradually blend into the background. The difficult truth is that many people become uncomfortable the moment silence enters a conversation. They rush to fill it because uncertainty unsettles them. The person who can remain composed in that silence is often the one who quietly holds the strongest position. They rush to fill it because they fear judgment. They fear being misunderstood. They fear not being liked. You don't speak to be liked. You speak to be heard. And because you speak, rarely every word you drop carries weight. That's what makes people fear you. Imagine this. Someone confronts you. They accuse you. They challenge you. They want a reaction. Most people would panic, explain everything, defend themselves, speak until they feel safe. But you let them talk. You listen. You watch them reveal their emotional weakness. Then you respond with 5 words and cut deeper than their 10-minute rant. That's power. Let me teach you something no one else will. If your words don't improve your position, your silence will. Powerful people speak to direct. Weak people speak to relieve anxiety. Which one are you? Look at your life. How many problems came from something you said? How many relationships died because you shared too much? How many enemies were born because your mouth moved faster than your mind? Words are permanent. A reputation is fragile, and silence is cheap. But here's the real secret. When you speak less, people start listening more. Your silence becomes anticipation. Your presence becomes tension. Your words become impact. Your character becomes myth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. But your mouth. It stains your reputation. In a world addicted to attention, you become powerful by withholding yours. In a world full of noise, you become respected by choosing silence. In a world of talkers, leaders are the ones who wait, think, and strike with precision." Now ask yourself how much of my life has been damaged because I spoke too soon. How many opportunities did I lose because I revealed too much? How many enemies were created because I couldn't keep quiet? And now imagine the opposite. What happens when you become harder to read? What happens when your silence makes people second-guess themselves? What happens when your words become rare but heavy? You become dangerous. You become respected. You become unforgettable. Behavior 3. You turn and leave without offering any explanation. This is the one action that unsettles people more than rage, more than conflict, more than raised voices. Leaving without saying a single word of explanation. There comes a point in every strong person's life when they finally understand this truth. You do not win battles through arguments. You win by leaving in silence, without explaining even one thing. That is the moment people begin to fear you. Most people cannot tolerate silence. They cannot endure distance. They cannot bear the feeling of being shut out without closure. But you walk away as though it costs you nothing, and that is what frightens them. Let me ask you this. How many times has someone disrespected you, and instead of arguing, you simply got up, looked at them, and walked away? No yelling, no dramatic departure, no emotional speech about how they wounded you. Only silence. And within that silence, they finally recognized your worth. Because when you refuse to explain yourself, you force people to remain alone with their guilt, their insecurity, their fear of losing access to you. 5. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He wrote, "Men forget the death of their father sooner than the loss of their inheritance." What does that mean? People only appreciate what they believe they are about to lose. And when you leave without saying a word, you become the inheritance they can never replace. Let me paint the picture for you. Belmont says you're talking to someone who takes you for granted. They interrupt you. They mock you. They question your worth. They forget what you've done. A weaker person would beg to be understood. They would explain their intentions. They would justify their actions. But you don't explain. You don't clarify. You don't defend. You simply leave. And right after you disappear, the panic begins. What did I do? Is he angry? Is he done with me? Did I cross a line? They replay the moment over and over, trying to decode your silence. Your absence becomes louder than any argument could ever be, because this is the truth. People respect distance more than words. They respect boundaries more than explanations. They respect silence more than begging. Walking away is not weakness, it's strategy. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free," and nothing is more freeing than refusing to explain your worth to someone who doesn't see it. What? Let me take this even further. Every time you feel the need to explain yourself, you make yourself smaller. You hand the other person power. You place your value on the table for debate. But the moment you walk away, you end that debate for good. They no longer get to decide what you're worth. Let me give you an example. You're faced with unfair judgment. Someone blames you for something you never did. Someone distorts your intentions. Someone tries to drag you into emotional turmoil. The average person keeps defending themselves, desperate to prove who they are. But you don't defend yourself. You don't argue your case. You don't try to convince them of your character. Because anyone who chooses to misunderstand you does not deserve access to your truth. Silence becomes your response. Walking away becomes your declaration. And that is what makes people fear losing you. Because leaving shows you are not attached. You are not dependent. You are not desperate. You are irreplaceable to others, yet fully willing to replace anyone. Here's the harsh truth that almost no one admits. But people don't pay attention when you explain. They pay attention when you leave. They listen when your silence cuts deeper than any words ever could. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, don't reflect their chaos. Don't reflect their disrespect. Don't mirror their emotional instability. Rise above it. Walk away from it. Let your silence shame them. Now ask yourself this and be honest. How many people would still be in your life right now if you had stopped explaining and simply walked away sooner? How many problems would have ended quicker? How much peace would you have gained? How much self-respect would you have saved? Walking away is not giving up. Walking away is choosing yourself, choosing your dignity, choosing your mind over their chaos. But here's the real power move. Walking away without closure, without warning. Because closure is a privilege, and not everyone deserves it. If this hit you hard, if you've carried the weight of over-explaining, trying to be understood, trying to prove you're worth staying for, then drop this in the comments. I walk away now. Behavior 4. You don't break under pressure or staring eyes. There is a moment that reveals who a person truly is, not when life is calm, not when things are easy, but when every eye in the room is on you, waiting to see if you'll break. Most people collapse under pressure. They panic, their hands shake, their voice cracks, their confidence dies in front of witnesses. But you're different. When pressure hits you, don't fold. You freeze the world. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how people get intimidated when you stay calm while things fall apart? How their voice gets shaky while yours remains steady? That's because stillness under pressure is not normal. It's power. And people fear power they cannot match. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince must always appear composed in the face of adversity." He didn't say be composed. He said appear composed because people judge what they see, not what you feel. Let me paint a scene. You're in a room. Tension is rising. People are arguing, pointing fingers and raising their voices. Every eye turns toward you, waiting for your response, waiting to see whether you'll lose control the way they would. But you don't. Your breathing remains steady. Your expression stays undisturbed. Your voice remains clear and precise. Your posture doesn't move an inch. And suddenly the entire room shifts, because when one person stays calm, everyone else feels exposed. Your calmness reveals their chaos. Your self-control uncovers their insecurity. Your composure makes them question their own state of mind. People don't fear your strength. They fear their own weakness when they're around you. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it." Meaning pressure is an illusion, one that no longer traps you. You have mastered something most people never even attempt: emotional neutrality under pressure. Let's go deeper. Pressure reveals who is made to lead and who is made to follow. Watch what happens when a crisis appears. The weak panic. The emotional react, but the powerful, they watch, they assess, they respond instead of reacting. Your calm is not emptiness. Your calm is strategy. Your calm tells the world, I am not controlled by chaos. I control myself. That is what unsettles people, because calmness means you are not impulsive, not predictable, and not easily manipulated. Let me show you why people fear you under pressure. 1, you don't flinch. Most people reveal fear through micro-reactions, but your face stays unreadable. 2, you don't break eye contact. People feel exposed when you look at them like you're reading their soul, because you are. 3, you don't rush your words. A calm voice under pressure is more threatening than shouting. 4, you don't show your intentions. They don't know what you'll do next, and uncertainty intimidates them. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Pressure didn't damage you. It shaped you. Let me give you a real scenario. Someone confronts you publicly. They expect you to crumble, fall apart, defend yourself desperately. They want to embarrass you, control you, expose you, but instead you look them dead in the eye. Your face calm, your voice steady, your mind sharp. You answer with precision, or better yet, you answer with silence. The crowd instantly senses the shift. You didn't defend yourself. You dominated without lifting a finger. This is psychological warfare, and you mastered it without realizing it. Now think about this. Why do people fear those who stay calm under pressure? Because chaos is comfortable for the weak. When you refuse to join their chaos, you force them to face their own instability. Your composure highlights their lack of composure. Your discipline highlights their lack of discipline. Your confidence highlights their insecurity. Your very existence becomes a mirror, and they don't like what they see, so they fear you. Here's a hard truth no one will ever say out loud. People don't fear the loudest one in the room. People fear the quiet one, watching everything, because the quiet one sees more, thinks deeper, and strikes cleaner. People fear the man who doesn't break under pressure because they know they would have. Now, ask yourself, how many times did staying calm save you? How many times did silence win the battle? How many times did composure turn the tables? And now imagine doubling down on it. Imagine becoming the man who remains unshaken in every circumstance. Imagine being the person others turn to for guidance, not because you demanded their respect, but because pressure proved you were the only one strong enough to carry it. A man who stays composed under pressure becomes the standard. A man who remains calm beneath watchful eyes becomes impossible to forget. If this speaks to you, leave this in the comments. I don't break, because from this moment forward, pressure will no longer expose you. It will reveal you. Behavior 5. You don't seek anyone's approval. There is a certain kind of man who moves through life differently. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't beg to be accepted. He doesn't reshape himself just to fit in. And that kind of man is feared, not because he intimidates people, but because he reveals the truth they are terrified to face. Most people cannot breathe without approval, but you can. Let me ask you something. How many choices in your life were driven by fear of judgment? How many dreams did you reduce because someone gave you a doubtful look? How many times did you remain silent because you didn't want to disappoint anyone? Now imagine never living that way again. Imagine moving through life with the confidence of someone who doesn't need to be liked, loved, or understood. That level of independence is rare, and rare things are feared. Machiavelli said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." He wasn't talking about cruelty. He was talking about independence. If people's approval builds your confidence, their rejection can destroy it. But if your confidence comes from within, nothing can touch it. Let me paint a scene. You walk into a room. Everyone is trying to impress everyone. Laughing too loudly, speaking too much, trying to look important. You walk in calm, silent, grounded. You're not performing. You're not begging for attention. You're not adjusting yourself to be accepted. And instantly people notice you. Why? Because independence is magnetic. People gravitate toward the person who doesn't need them. Here's the psychological truth. When you stop seeking approval, your perceived value begins to rise. People respond to you differently because your presence quietly communicates, "I don't need anything from you." And few things unsettle people more than someone who cannot be easily manipulated. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good." The meaning is simple. Your true worth comes from within yourself, not from the applause of others. Most people are afraid of losing approval. You are afraid of losing yourself. That is why you can walk away while others continue to cling. That is why you can stand alone while others fall apart in isolation. That is why people continue talking about you even when you remain silent. Because when a person no longer depends on approval, they become difficult to predict. And people who are difficult to predict possess real power. Now let's go even deeper. Approval is a chain. It influences how you dress, how you speak, who you choose to be with, which dreams you pursue, and which risks you refuse to take. But the moment you stop depending on external validation, that chain begins to break. You start following your own path instead of the one others designed for you. You stop explaining yourself. You stop trying to convince everyone. You stop dimming your ambition to make others feel safe. You become someone others cannot control. Seneca said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere," meaning if you try to please everyone, you belong to no one, not even yourself. Now let me give you a scene you've lived before. You tell someone your idea, your dream, your plan, and they look at you with doubt, skepticism, a smirk. And suddenly you shrink. You feel embarrassed. You question yourself. But think about it. If you need their approval to begin, you'll need their permission to continue. And eventually you'll need their validation to feel worthy. That is slavery, self-built slavery. But when you stop needing approval, their doubt doesn't matter. Their judgment doesn't matter. Their jealousy doesn't matter. Their misunderstanding doesn't matter. You stop living to be accepted. You start living to be aligned with yourself. Watch how people react when you do this. Some will respect you instantly. Some will hate you quietly. Some will talk behind your back because they can't influence you. Some will follow you because they want what you have, a backbone, but every single one of them will feel something around you. Because independence is a presence, a pressure, a silent statement of self-worth. Here is a difficult truth you need to accept. People are not afraid of the man who is loved. They are afraid of the man who can walk away from love and still remain complete. People are not intimidated by the man who seeks approval. They are intimidated by the man who creates it. People do not fear the man who blends into the crowd. They fear the man who is willing to stand alone. If these words resonate with you, leave this comment right now. I need no approval, because from this moment forward, your confidence will no longer come from applause. It will not come from compliments. It will not come from being chosen. It will not come from being accepted. It will come from within you. And the person who gives himself approval is the one the world eventually learns to respect. Behavior 6. You establish boundaries immediately and without apology. In every relationship or friendship there comes a moment when someone decides to test you. A joke that crosses the line. A boundary they assume you will never enforce. Weak men ignore it. Average men begin explaining themselves. But powerful men stop it right there immediately without apologizing and without trying to soften the impact. And that is why people secretly fear you. Most people avoid this because they want to be liked. You do it because you want to be respected. And that is exactly why people quietly fear you. Let me ask you something. How many times have you let something slide because you didn't want to make things awkward? How many times did someone cross a line and you laughed it off even though it bothered you? How many times did you let people disrespect you because you didn't want to cause problems? Now think about this. Did any of those people actually become better? Did they change? Did they suddenly begin respecting you? They interpreted your silence as weakness, and they behaved accordingly. Here is a difficult truth. Every time you refuse to establish a boundary, you are teaching people exactly how to treat you poorly. Picture this for a moment. Someone makes a disrespectful joke. Everyone around you laughs. And so then they look at you waiting to see how you will respond. Most people force an uncomfortable smile. Most people act as though nothing happened. Most people bury their discomfort. But you meet their eyes and calmly say, "Don't do that again." The entire room goes silent because no one expects you to defend yourself without anger, without raising your voice, and without even a moment of hesitation. You don't need to be loud to make your point. The way you speak is enough. Your presence is enough. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. And if it is not respectful, you do not accept it." Now let me explain why boundaries make people uncomfortable. First, boundaries reveal where the true balance of power lies. The moment you say stop, you reveal who was benefiting from your silence. 2 boundaries remove manipulation. A manipulator needs you confused, compliant, and unsure. A boundary shatters that. 3 boundaries make people confront themselves, and most people can't handle their own reflection. That is why they fear you, because you don't hesitate, because you don't soften your words to protect feelings, because you don't shrink yourself to maintain harmony. Difficult people hate boundaries because boundaries reveal their intentions. Now, let go deeper. People test you all the time, not always consciously. Sometimes to see how far they can push, sometimes to see what you tolerate, sometimes to see if you are the type of person they can take advantage of. But when you respond instantly with clarity, "No, don't speak to me like that. I'm not doing that. This conversation is over. I'm leaving." They learn everything they need to know about you. Not weak, not naive, not scared, not malleable. Strong, self-respecting, in control of yourself and your environment. Seneca wrote, "You must live for yourself or you will never live at all." Boundaries are the way you begin living for yourself. Let me paint another scene because this is the one most people try to avoid. Someone asks something unreasonable of you. Your time, your money, your energy, your attention, your loyalty, your patience. Most people say yes not because they truly want to, but because they are afraid to say no. Now you simply reply, "No, that doesn't work for me." And in that instant, their mask begins to slip. Their tone changes. Their body language shifts. Why? Because they were depending on your fear and you refused to give it to them. People fear the person who cannot be pressured because pressure is the tool they use to control others. Now, let me tell you a truth you have always known but rarely say out loud. People don't become angry because you set boundaries. They become angry because your boundaries prevent them from using you. The moment you truly understand this, you become incredibly difficult to control. A man without boundaries becomes a tool. A man with boundaries becomes a force. So here is your moment of reflection. How many of the problems in your life were created by what you allowed? How much stress came from the words you never spoke? How many times did your silence cost you your peace? Now turn the question around. What happens when you commit to boundaries, when you protect your time, when you protect your energy, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop tolerating disrespect? People start treating you differently. Your relationships change. Your environment changes. Your life becomes smaller but stronger, quieter but safer, colder but cleaner. And the people who remain, they respect you far more than the ones who left because boundaries don't chase people away. They filter them. Behavior 7. You walk away from anyone who threatens your peace. There is a moment in every relationship where you feel it. A shift, a tone, a comment, a subtle disrespect, a crack in the energy that tells you instantly, this person is not good for my peace. Most people ignore that moment. They stay. They explain. They hope. They negotiate with disrespect, thinking it will magically turn into love or loyalty. But powerful people, they don't wait for the damage. They walk away before the explosion. Cold, silent. And that is the behavior that terrifies people the most, because walking away without emotion is the one move they can never control. Let me ask you something. How many times have you stayed where you weren't valued because you didn't want to look rude? How many times did you lower your standards to keep someone who never deserved you? And what did it cost you? Your peace, your time, your confidence, your sanity. Walking away is not weakness. It is one of the highest forms of power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Walking away is the living expression of that idea. You stop trying to change people. You stop trying to control them. You stop trying to win them over. Instead, you take back ownership of your own mind. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're arguing with someone who has no interest in the truth. They only want to win. They want to protect their ego. They want to create chaos. Most people respond by fighting back. They raise their voices. They make the conflict even bigger. They hand over their energy to someone who feeds on draining it. But you stop speaking. You take a step back. You walk away. And suddenly they begin to panic. Why? Because your silence strikes harder than any insult ever could. Your absence speaks louder than any argument. Walking away exposes them. It forces them to confront their own behavior. People who depend on your reaction lose their power the moment you refuse to give it. Here is the harsh truth. If someone threatens your peace, you owe them nothing. Not closure, not explanations, not one final conversation, not one last opportunity. Peace is valuable. Stop giving it away at a discount. Seneca said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." He did not say to fix them. He did not say to wait until they become better. He said to choose people who lift you higher. Everyone else deserves distance. Now imagine another scene. Imagine someone who constantly drains you emotionally, mentally, financially. You try to help. You try to understand. You try to fix them. But the truth is, they don't want fixing. They want access. They want a place to dump their chaos. One day, you stop responding. You stop being available. You stop carrying their weight, and watch what happens. Suddenly, you're selfish. But they never cared when you were drained. They only care now because your energy is no longer theirs to consume. That is what peace thieves hate the most, losing access. Machiavelli said, "Never was anything great achieved without danger." But the danger he's talking about here is internal. The danger of letting the wrong people stay in your life. The danger of tolerating chaos because you fear being alone. The danger of sacrificing your peace for temporary company. Walking away is the cure. Let's go even deeper. There are 3 types of people you must walk away from immediately.
Tessamenten.
Now, those who disrespect you once and call it a joke. They're testing the limits of what they can get away with. Fail that test once, and they will repeat it forever. If you always leave tired and they always leave satisfied, you're in the wrong room. Those who get angry when you decide to choose yourself. They want benefiting you. They were benefiting from you. And here's the harshest part. The sooner you walk away from these people, the sooner your life rises. But most people stay too long. They hope it gets better. They wait for change. They ignore their instincts. Your instincts never lied. Your hope did. Now look back at your own life. How many times did your peace quietly tell you, leave, yet you ignored it? And what did staying give you? Pain you never had to experience, wounds you could have avoided, lessons you didn't need to learn the hard way. Now turn it around. What happens when you choose to walk away the instant someone becomes a threat to your peace? You become untouchable. Your mind becomes sharper. Your focus grows relentless. Your energy becomes something you protect, and your presence becomes more valuable. Because people fear losing someone who values their peace more than they value another person's approval. If these words resonate with you, leave this in the comments. My peace is final. The world is not afraid of the loud man. It is afraid of the man who walks away without saying a word. Because that man has nothing left to lose and everything worth protecting. If this message reached you deeply, don't keep it to yourself. Someone in your life may be struggling right now, and this truth could be exactly what they need. Share it. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. This isn't entertainment. This is evolution. I'll see you in the next video.